Agenda item number 5, approval of minutes, 5-1, minutes, June 25th, 2019, regular city council meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes of June 25th. I know a few of us had changes, and I think even Summer got all those.
Thank you, Ronnie. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Karen. She beat you, Mike. Any other deliberation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And I would like to now do section 9 presentations. We have a guest. Where's our chief? Chief, you want to come up and join us? And Summer? May I borrow your microphone? Take it away. Like literally the microphone. We can spin it, but it's connected.
I'm just gonna, yep. We'll do that.
Here we go. That's what.
This one becomes yours.
Let's do it like
Yes.
that'll work.
Okay, are you ready?
Ready.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Michael Thurston,
I,
do
Michael
solemnly
Thurston,
swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the State of Utah,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
the municipal ordinances of the City of Moab,
the municipal ordinances of the City of Moab,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my
as
office
Assistant Police Chief with fidelity.
as Assistant Police Chief with fidelity.
Standing, but without the awkward microphone, so that we can get a good picture.
Would you like me to pretend?
Yes, please.
Okay, we're pretending you're swearing.
Or at Lisa, if you want to come up, so we can, thank you. Just
The official reenactment.
Take two.
and we have to be the backdrop for that. Thank you for your patience and your humor.
That's good. I'll just start off
Thank you.
with it.
Okay, that painful moment is. Thank you, Summer. Brett, hold on before you both go. I just want to give you the opportunity to say. So people knew what just happened.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it wireless?
It is.
Yeah. So what just happened, we went through a promotional selection process for a new assistant chief, and the process consisted of 4 different phases with 3 different applicants. It was a pretty extensive process. All 3 applicants did exceptionally well. It was a difficult decision, but the unanimous decision amongst the 5 panelists was to promote Mike Thurston to the position of assistant chief. Mike has been with our agency for a little over a year, has about 13 years in law enforcement, including about 10 years with Grand County Sheriff's Office. So he's very familiar with our community. He's got a lot of respect from our officers, deputies, highway patrol troopers, and the community as well. So we're thrilled to have Mike as our assistant chief.
Hey, Assistant Chief. Assistant Chief, can we shake your hand? Congratulations and thank you.
I'll shake again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief, for the explanation and welcome to that position. And thank you all. So we're going to move on to, or actually move back to our mayor and council reports. And if you were here for that swearing in session and you have little children, you can go ahead and leave without shame. But this is your only opportunity. After that, it's full of shame. Thank you all for coming as well. It means a lot to all of us. Okay, now don't get too chatty out there. Okay, mayor and council reports, me first. I attended a water quality board meeting, and I just wanted to give a little background about what the water quality board does because it's important for us to know. So the water quality board, while it manages quality, it also manages funds, so loan funds and grant funds in the state of Utah for purposes that manage water quality. It is a real honor for me to sit on that board, and I just kind of want to say to this council and to the community, this is an opportunity to utilize this board position to be effective, to get more resources to Moab, and to follow up with the research that we've done about our water with some action and putting money into the projects that we've been saying we need. So I just want to say that. The mission statement is that the Water Quality Board guides the development of water quality policy and regulations within the state. And so also if there is water policy that we want to see, sometimes we get stuck in this mindset of, oh, well, we'd love to see that, but it's, you know, it's not the law, or that's not the law. Well, I'm in a position now where I can help affect that. So I just feel like we're entering into the era that is water, and so let's really utilize this as much as we can and be sure to consider that. So that was that. The 4th of July celebration was amazing. I want to thank the city recreation, city parks, the MRAC staff, the MARC staff, especially Liz, for her amazing work. Everybody that came out, the volleyball players, having Ryan Shoup and the rubber band here, and hearing that people were coming from all over to come and listen to the band. But Brendan, the chamber president, making the statement, hey, we're happy to have visitors here, but this is not for you. This is for our community and the locals. And during the celebration, during the day, the park was full of locals, and it was really, really special. So next year, it's going to be bigger and better and more fun. And I'm just really grateful to the city staff that came out to help us put it all together. I did attend with Mike a meeting with Bruce Louthan and Dave Sackerson to talk again about sewer rates, and I just wanted to report back that we would look into rate consideration for churches and nonprofits in our next budget open, as we had discussed. The county does have a third category where it's residential, nonprofit / church, and then commercial. So that's something that we can consider. And it's true that it's, you know, may or may not be something that we move forward with, but at least I did promise consideration. What else? I met with the new prevention coordinator from Four Corners. So Tiffany was the old coordinator. So they do have a new coordinator, and she's got a pretty awesome story and personal story. But what we talked about, which was interesting, especially with respect to price, that economic development is actually a tool for prevention. So when we think of drug and alcohol abuse, you know, why we do things, well, sometimes it's, you know, compounded by certain issues that Four Corners are set to help people through. But that the idea that if there are jobs and there is economic development, that there is possibility and that there is hope. And I thought that that was really special, so I wanted to share that, because that's kind of a new paradigm in prevention, I think, at least in our world, in southeastern Utah especially. I attended a meeting with Russell from UMPTRA, and Ronnie, I know that you sit on the board. There's an upcoming meeting where there's going to be a big year-end report, but he did, you know, I was going to go through it, but I'm going to let you go to that big meeting and report back based on UMPTRA stuff. But they're doing 4 trains right now, and they'd like to keep doing it, so we need to keep lobbying to continue the funding for that. And with respect to the high water, there's a natural bladder that is created by injecting water, and that bladder has kept us safe from high water affecting the pile. So that was my takeaway. Anyway, we got mosquitoes, but we did not breach the bladder levee of the pile. But Ronnie, I assume that you're going to be bringing a lot more update at our next council meeting or after the
We shall
big-
see. Do you
Yeah.
want samples? Anybody? Tailoring samples?
I wanted to let you guys know that I'm not going to be at the next meeting. So Tani will be running the next meeting. I'll be at a forum in Idaho. And one more thing that I just wanted to discuss real quick is that we've been asked to do a letter of support for the dark sky application. And I just wanted to find the one council member that could oversee that so that we could all sign it and as a body move forward. Kaylin, great. So we're depending on you to do that letter. And now it's on record. And that's all from me. Thanks.
I was going to thank the city for new paint on some of the streets, like especially 100 South has speed limit on the street now and some added crosswalks, and put in a request for one more crosswalk, but I can do that at a later time. I just noticed we don't have anything yet at 200 East and across 100 South, and just because that's the connector for a lot of people going to the library or the ball fields from the walkway, the parkway, thank you. So that would be great. And I attended a mosquito abatement district more as a citizen, but I did take some notes because I was very educational on July 1st. We had a Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District meeting on the 3rd of July. I know there had been some questions. It gets very confusing behind the hospital between Park Drive and Walnut. Who owns what empty lot? The hospital owns some property, the special service district owns some property, but at any rate, there have been some questions about potential brush clearing. So the hospital did go in and do, I heard conflicting numbers, but 30 to 40 foot fire breaks recently on both properties. And I know if there are any brush piles left, they were looking into clearing those. And yes, UMTRA will have a meeting. I will see what we have to report. For now, aside from the 4 trains, they did announce that they've now passed the 60% mark of moving the 60 million tons of tailings. And they have been moving debris from the dismantled mill, because I know when you drive by, sometimes you see old building parts and you wonder, what is that? And the other thing I attended was the Southeast Utah Riparian Partnership. And just to remind the council, the city is on the MOU. Cara Dornwin, the chair, asked me to attend. I guess the parks director used to. So if and when we have someone in that slot, it might make sense for them to be going. Some meetings kind of cross over into some Mill Creek stuff, Pat Creek stuff that might be of interest to us, and sometimes not so much so, but interesting meeting. I'll just tell you briefly some of the things that they reported on. They're doing a mapping project on native and non-native Phragmites grass. We got a report on the Razorback Sucker project, which sounds like they're still installing gates and screens, so they'll be able to do what they're saying, a real run. They'll get a better idea next year. We had a presentation from the Travel Council about the Do It Like a Local campaign, and you're all gonna laugh, but I'm bringing this up because it's a real issue for all of us, I guess, especially as more and more people are visiting and getting out on the trails. We're seeing more human waste, and people who live around here probably know you can buy a wag bag, is what they call it. It's like like your poo bag for dogs, but for humans, but you can seal it. And so there will be some Do It Like a Local bags to try and help educate our visitors about.
I want that wag bag.
Yeah, not leaving.
That's
well,
hilarious.
I think they're going to be collector's items. And just for the city, since we were discussing sustainability, or anybody in town who's interested, I did learn that there are different brands of wag bags. And so the rest stop ones we see around town a lot are Mylar, and they don't break down. So there are other brands out there, Clean Waste, for example, which if you're looking for something that might be a more biodegradable choice, there you have it. We got an update on our tamarack beetle friend, and I was just going to let people know that the what used to be called the Tamarisk Coalition has gone through a name change. It's now called, yes, River's Edge West. And they have a lot of good resources, including some free videos to educate about river restoration, if anybody's interested in that. And I also happened to pick up a copy of this because I hadn't seen it, and I didn't know if you all had, but the Travel Council has this document now called the Moab Outdoor Adventure Guide. And I don't know if you guys remember the days when you'd go into the MIC and you'd pick up 25 little flyers, which were cool, but they've tried to put a lot of them into one document. So it's kind of fun to have all in one place, convenient. And I think that was it, other than some good handouts for those of you who do these sorts of things. The chair did have some great handouts on planning a Russian olive removal project, as well as techniques and options for removing Russian olive. So lots of good resources.
Because they're pokey. Thanks, Ronnie.
So how many of you guys came for the 4th of July presentations at Swanee Park, besides me? So did you enjoy it, by and large? We're hoping to make it an annual thing. I had a great time. So other than that, it's the usual old water work for me. Dana Van Horn, who manages Grand Water and Sewer, commented the other day that we're still seeing 50 cubic feet per second of water in Mill Creek above the Shealy diversion where the water goes into Kins Lake, and that's an awesome amount for this time of year. Kins Lake is still full. It's been topped out for a long time. This is a great thing. Dana says she's never seen anything like it. So this would be a great thing. On the other side of the coin, next week starts a vulnerability, consequences, drought. I can never remember what it all stands for. But it's basically a workshop in which some experts in climate change are coming to town. And my goal anyway is to use what I learned there to refine a recharge budget. Ken Colm is a hydrologist whom the city hired to do a 3-part study for us. He just turned in a water budget. That's the second part. But the third part, well, the water budget is what we're talking about now. But part of his budget is estimating how much water goes into the aquifer. And this study will be a nice way to refine that for the next 20, 30 years, so that will help. And the third part of his study, by the way, is a water quality thing. He thinks that, Mr. Colm thinks that our aquifer is tightly tied to Mill Creek, and therefore some serious questions arise about how much we ought to protect for sole source protection. And I can tell you that yesterday morning, leaving my house at 6 o'clock, I went all the way up the river road, all the way up Castle Valley, and climbed that hill and about killed myself. And I was out of water when I got up to the top, crossing Pinhook Draw up there, and out of water. And I drank about a quart of refreshingly wonderful water. But I can tell you, having had Giardia once already, it's a 10-day incubation period. So if I'm not here at the next meeting, that'll be why.
Thank you, Mike.
Do it like a local.
I went on vacation.
Do it like a local? Not that local. Filter your water, folks.
I went on vacation shopping. That's it.
Thanks, Tani.
I attended the Chamber Board meeting on the 25th. Much of the meeting revolved around the 4th of July preparation. We ended up having, I believe it was 23 booths from the Chamber that signed up, and the Chamber recruited 8 new businesses because of the 4th of July Chamber special. Justin Anthony from Senator Lee's office was in attendance at our meeting last week, and he wanted to hear about issues from the board regarding federal issues that affect businesses locally, such as tariffs, healthcare costs, housing costs, etc. And I wanted to mention that the next luncheon is on the 16th of July at the Moab Giants, and Sheriff Steve White will be presenting information on business fraud and security. We had our last organizational meeting for the Independence Day celebration on Monday. And then Monday evening, I attended the airport board meeting, and we went over bids for the taxiway and apron construction projects. We discussed options for non-aeronautical business opportunities in and around the airport. There was an unauthorized rave on the runway a few weeks ago. That was
Rave?
Yeah.
Like a rave party?
Like a rave
Like glow
dance off.
sticks?
Yes,
On the runway?
on the runway. They got in a little bit of trouble.
On the real runway? Like
the-
the frequently used runway?
Yes, at night. Have you seen the lights at night, though, if anybody's driving home from?
It encourages
It's
rave dancing.
Super cool, unfortunately, but,
Wow.
and new flights will begin service on August 24th, Saturday. And I think I mentioned it last time, but flights departing Moab will be at 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and 6 p.m., and round-trip fares from here to Denver are $148. So very reasonable, $74, $73 one way. And then I attended the 4th of July all-day extravaganza, which was great fun. And so, yes, can't wait to see what we come up with next year. That was it.
Thanks, Karen.
I went to a regional mobility planning committee, and we're continuing to work on the scope of work that the city, county, and UDOT will collaboratively issue as an RFP. And it seems like a good opportunity to continue building our relationship with UDOT, identify future projects, and help get them funded. I met with Rachel. We discussed the city role, city council role in the accounts payable, or paying the bills, signing the checks. And there are adequate internal controls that this role for the council is optional. I have found it to be a good experience to see the more detailed workings of the city from the procurement end. But knowing that I have found, while there may be questions about priorities, I've found no errors over months and months and thousands of transactions. So our staff is doing a fine job, and I'll be spot checking, but not being as thorough as I've been. And if anyone who hasn't done it and wants to have the experience, and I recommend it. So just let me know.
But you'll continue to be the one to make the motion and have the dollar figure so that we can officially approve the
Yes.
bills each council meeting? Okay,
Unless someone wants to take that over.
okay. Tony
and-
has made that offer. And if you're okay with that, we could transition to that. I would be okay with that. I don't know if that, we need more than, do we need, I don't think we need anything more formal than the nod to proceed with that. That's
Okay.
fine.
All
Yeah.
right.
So maybe just do a transfer of information and, yes.
I want like
Mind
a
meld.
gavel and something,
Okay.
a pen, anyway.
Anyway,
You get lots
can
of fun
borrow this.
Post-its.
Yeah, lots of sticky notes.
Okay.
a couple of weeks ago at 4 a.m., had a meeting of the Moab Valley Fire Department on my property because a raccoon had climbed into a power pole and its flaming electrocuted corpse fell to the ground
Wow.
and started a brush fire.
You're kidding.
I kid you not. But fortunately, the response was robust, and the
Swift.
fire was quickly put out, as well as the relatively high moisture levels in the vegetation kept it from spreading very fast. So that was exciting. Not directly relevant to my council duties, but
Well, just,
Shout out to the fire department.
yo, for
and
sure.
evidence of the flammability of,
Raccoons.
Raccoons.
How long did it take till you realized what was happening?
Well, I heard the sirens. I looked out my window. I could see the glow of the fire, and I could see sparks from over some trees. So I knew it was quite close, and I ran out and tried to get a hose going, but didn't have quite the volume needed. And fortunately, it wasn't spreading that fast. And most of the fire department couldn't actually get that close to my property because of just the transportation infrastructure of my driveway, but enough. But it was, yeah, a very impressive response, and I was grateful to see everyone there.
well, it's important to note that it's not just kids playing with matches that can cause fires, and to keep
It's raccoons
Do you-
playing with transformers.
prevention diligence is really critical.
Yes,
Thanks. Got anything else?
that's it.
Thank you, Kaylin. We are moving on now to Section 7, Administrative Reports. I want to just let everybody know that we've got some significant reporting that's going to happen, so get comfortable, because we have a lot of briefing to be briefed on. So, Joel,
Okay, so
brief away.
I wanted to start out by thanking a couple people, Michael Mustache and the Parks crew. They operate the bathrooms Michael Mustache mans them during the weekends, and he keeps them open and operated during the 4th of July weekend, all of that. So no one thinks about, as they're out recreating all weekend, how that's happening, but that's the crew. I wanted to thank Liz and Makeda, Sasha and Anna, Pat and Rhett, Terry, Pat, Stacy, and the entire staff at the MRAC, and Lisa, Nora, and the chief for their 4th of July participation from the city staff.
I'm sorry that I didn't mention them as well because they did such a great job of being at the booth. And Lisa in particular did the raffle. We had 77 people participate. Sophia, age 5, won the raffle, and that was very exciting for all of us. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you were fine. And I also wanted to thank law enforcement for their patrol on the 4th of July, especially over across the street at the park. Once the sun went down, it got a little rowdy at first, but once red and blue lights showed up, everyone seemed to behave quite better. So, and I also want to thank the mayor and Karen for planning the 4th of July. I know you guys got a late jump on it, and I was nervous when you guys started down that road so late in the game, but you guys did awesome, and it
Always be nervous.
turned out really well. So next year we'll start sooner. So yeah, the Mark crew, with the help of Kelly Oliver from facilities and the rec department, installed a piano at the Moab Information Center. They had a local artist paint it and put a lot of lacquer on it. It is outside. It is tuned. It is mounted to the cement, so you can stop by and play that. They're looking for donations of other pianos. If people want to donate pianos, they're happy to come pick them up if you want them to. So that would pass that along. Real quickly, just to get this thought out there, I'm going to pass these around real fast. Try and do this rather quickly. This is, in the spring, we had quite a bit of confusion with members of the community and the burn ban that the city has. And so I just real quickly wanted to put this out there. Obviously, it's July, so no one's being allowed to burn anywhere. And so as we move back into the falls, that's coming up, I just wanted to put this out there and let you guys consider it. The burn ban was put into place by ordinance 0406 in 2004. It's been in place for 15 years. There's no burning allowed within city limits. And so that includes yard waste, any other types of waste. There's just no burning. And so that has caused some heartache with some residents, and I've given you guys the solid waste and the yard waste, the definitions of special waste, and that all those are included in that. That does not give an exception for ag burns. And so there are people in the community who own ag areas. We, the city, own some water retention basins that we don't burn because of this restriction. And so not trying to get you to change it, but I wanted to throw it out there that it is something to consider. I also provided you with the state rule, and that shows you the windows that are allowed to burn under the state guidelines, which the county that we live in is between September 15th and November 15th. We're allowed to pass restrictions that exceed that, and we have. And so we're completely within our right to do so. We're completely fine with the rule we have. But as we move into the fall, if we want to amend that going in that would allow any ag burning or any exceptions, I'm not saying we do or don't. I know a lot of people, we get calls on it constantly when we hit that window. And so I'm just trying to get the word out that there's no burn allowed within city limits. Here's the rules, here's why. And if we want to change it, then we'll proceed to do that going forward.
Do you want to hear from us right now?
No, I want you to take that and absorb it and let
So
me.
wood burning stoves, Mona told me were still okay, is that
This,
correct?
this is outdoor fire burning. So this is not how you heat your home whatsoever.
Thank you, Joel, for the information and the prompt.
So we put out the RFP for the architecture on Walnut Lane. We received 6 bids, 5 bids on that on Friday. We have not had time to thoroughly review those yet. And so next meeting, we will have a full update on what we're doing with Walnut Lane, the RFP to get it going and everything else. So we are in the process. It is going forward, but like I said, they were due Friday at 5, and between yesterday and today being a council day, we haven't had time to go over them. Have opened them and glanced, but I was hoping to give a more thorough report on them, but they were dense enough that we couldn't do that without doing it.
Is Tracy reviewing them?
He is, and so I have them, and then I'm going to we're gonna follow a process on how we're going to review them and go from forward. So we'll put together a group and go from there, so. that'll be the plan.
Will there be anybody from council in that group?
Yeah, and we're open to however we want to form that group. And yes, the idea was that there would be not a quorum, but just shy of that.
Okay.
So I met with Parks and John Fogg with the Rotary group. We are preparing to build a new fence along the north side of Rotary Park. And so that's mid-process. I just wanted to let you guys know that's happening. Last time we'd made any changes in Rotary Park, it kind of got noted places.
That we have a partner in the Rotary Club,
Yes, we do have a partner in the Rotary Club.
and
It's
to
been
contact
awesome.
them and include them.
Yep, and we have been doing that, and it's been going really well. It's John Fogg, and he's been awesome, so. September 10th is our meeting, first meeting in September. First thing is, that's the league, that following Wednesday. So I wanted to ask if we wanted to move that meeting to the 9th. That's one question. Two, we want to do a work session prior to either that meeting or the meeting on the 25th, or the 24th, 25th.
Pull out your calendars,
24th.
council members, because I think we really do want to look at having our meeting on the 9th, not the 10th. So let's answer that first question. If we're okay to, do you need a motion?
Yeah, I'd prefer a motion to move it.
Let's check our calendars. Does the 9th work?
Yes.
It's just the Monday before.
Yeah.
And it's okay if we don't move it. I don't know how many of you are planning on attending the league meeting. Obviously, if you're not planning on attending it, it's a non-issue. If we are planning on attending it, where 3 or 4 of you are going to be at the league session, then you'll want to be there Wednesday morning, and so it's just trying to free that up.
Forgive me, I was wrong. The date is?
The 9th, Monday the 9th, as opposed to the 10th of September.
September 9th.
I can do that.
I have a League of Women Voters thing on my calendar, but I could probably skip that if the meeting needs to move.
Okay. Mike, does that work for you?
I guess, I don't have.
Tawny?
so-
Karen,
Yes.
is there a motion?
Make a motion to move our September 10th, 2019 meeting to September 9th, 2019. What? We don't need a motion.
Well,
If you need to make a motion, it needs to be on the agenda. You can do it next time, but
We can ratify it. So we can make a motion and we'll ratify it at the next meeting.
is there a second?
I'm all second.
Thanks. Ronnie, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. And the second part of that was,
We want to do a work session prior to either that meeting or the second meeting in September. There would be, basically, Public Works would be presenting each department the state of the infrastructure that they're dealing with, water, sewer, roads, and a finance aspect to that as well. And it's going to be quite thorough. We have some issues we want to bring forward and show you guys where the problems are, what we're looking at. We've had a couple sewer lines that are just utterly failing. We started trying to just make small plans to fix those, and it just keeps snowballing into larger issues. So we just want to refocus and reframe that discussion on infrastructure. And so it'd probably be 2 to 3 hours, and we'd want to either do that before the 9th or before the second meeting in September. I don't know which one you guys would prefer.
and you were thinking maybe that noon meeting
Yeah.
on, so if moving the meeting to the 9th, then it would be, in
We could-
addition, a noon meeting from noon to 2 or 2:30
Yeah.
so that this council would meet with
Obviously that,
staff about infrastructure.
obviously that works best for staff because it's just during their workday. If it works better for council that we do it from 4 to 7 and then have the normal meeting from 7 on, I'm open to either. I don't really care, to be honest with you. It's just whatever works for you guys to be able to attend.
I'd be inclined towards noon session on the 24th,
Of
September,
September.
Yeah.
Okay.
just to throw something out there.
Yeah, how immediate is the need to have a meeting about this? Because it seemed pretty urgent.
It's pretty urgent. We're trying to line up funding and we need to get a lot of this out there to you guys so we can start prioritizing it and get our plan in place. So the sooner the better.
Oh,
The 24th works, that's fine.
I thought that's what you said.
No, that's fine, absolutely. Either the 10th,
If
the
the
9th,
9th,
yes.
if the 9th doesn't work,
Yeah.
then the 24th is
Yeah.
the next best option. The 9th
The,
wouldn't work.
the
or-
9th works, it's just a Monday, and
Yeah, Mondays. It works for me, but if you prefer it on a Tuesday, then we could do the 24th. What is,
Either one works.
Doesn't matter.
I prefer to do it in the same day as the council meeting. So the 9th is what I.
24th
The
is
24th
council
is the
meeting,
next
too.
No,
council
the
meeting.
September 9th instead of the 24th. Not waiting until the 24th, do it
oh,
on.
you want to do it on the 9th?
Yeah,
Do it sooner.
yep.
The good news about doing it on the 9th is that it would tee up nicely right before the league convention, where we're going to probably be talking about dealing with infrastructure, failing infrastructure issues, and could probably attend some sessions to see about resources, was my thinking. So we'll say the 9th at noon? Okay. And then, Tanya, I just want to recognize that I know that lunches are hard for you.
It's okay, I'll figure something out.
There's always the follow on Facebook, if
No.
that's a hard one.
That's horrible.
Yeah, and this
No,
is
you can't
definitely
hear.
yeah.
I'll
Okay,
figure something out.
Okay, I'm almost done. We have been doing the speed limit and the crossings. We've done most of those that we can do without doing a little engineering and a little bit of study. So we'll follow up on the ones we can finish. I'll follow up on the one you pointed out tonight, and then we're gonna go into a phase where we talk to engineering and we start getting studies so we can determine legal speed limits, so when we post them, they're enforceable. And then I will let Rachel talk about the tax restructuring here in just a second. And Chase is going to speak on behalf of the mosquito abatement. If he wants to come up, he can do that right quick. Chuck is going to speak to you real quick about traffic patterns around Uranium and 100 East after that. And then we will let the chief of police and Rachel, and that'll be that.
Chase, thank you for coming to do this update for us. I just want to recognize that you are wearing the hat of a board member of a mosquito abatement district.
Yes.
And not a city staff. I just wanted to be clear with that because you may use words like we, and I just wanted to be clear that that pronoun is going to be you and mosquito abatement so that there's no confusion about the city's role or not role in mosquito abatement.
Correct. First of all, say good evening. Thank you for
You're going to have to talk into the microphone. Sorry.
inviting me here to speak. For those of you that do not know me, I am Chase Golson. I am on the board of the Moab Mosquito Abatement District. I've been there for some time. With all the excitement of mosquitoes that we've had this year due to the snow melt, I'm just going to give you a brief update on what's taking place right now so that we know what's going on. This last weekend, we have changed our no fog policy for spraying for nuisance pests or nuisance mosquitoes to where it's more in line with every other mosquito district in the state. They do spray fog for nuisance because it is considered a health issue and also quality of life issue. So as of this last weekend, as the board, Libby did, who is the district manager, did fog on Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. Monday was spent the entire day doing collection of traps and identifying any vectors, but without having any numbers for sure. But I do know that she did say that our numbers of mosquitoes, especially the nuisance, had declined quite a bit. She's planning on fogging again this evening. We are scheduled for an aerial drop of larvicide over the sloughs, approximately 300 acres will be done. That will be done this coming Sunday. They're planning to start at 6 a.m. for that, but we are going to restrict access to the wetlands and that area around the sloughs directly just for the aerial application for Sunday, but we need, it's not, other than during the drop is the only time that there could be a lot of caution that needs to be taken as far as the application. As far as a time period afterwards, it would be okay to re-enter within a half hour to 45 minutes approximately, we're assuming, but we do not want to go in, so we're eliminating all of Sunday for 24 hours, so just in case there is a delay, there is a malfunction, or wind problem, so that we may have to delay the actual drop. It is supposed to take place though on Sunday, and then we'll reevaluate as far as opening. As long as the drop has been done, the wetland should be opened back up by Monday morning. Let's see. If there's any question of what we are fogging with pyrethrin, which is nothing like what they used to use with malathion and that type of thing. We're only using, it's a biomist 4x4 product designed for being able to be fogged in residential areas, and it's only a 4% solution. There are all of the warnings as far as allowing the people enough time to know what they have to shut their cooler off, or if they are sensitive, or if they're beekeepers, once they're in bed, it will not be taking place. Any of the fogging does not start before 9 p.m. and it shuts down by 12 midnight. Let's see. As far as the fogging goes, the droplets are very, very small. The machine is designed to keep it just in that area alone so that we do not go off target. If wind speeds go above 7 miles per hour, they have to shut down due to the regulation of the law of the label. But the machine is designed that once it is out and about, it will immediately descend and hit the target and not continue to drift. So that's why we cannot do this above 7 miles per hour wind. So far, there's been cooperation with the weather, even though we've had some winds during the day. I do want to thank the county council for stepping up and realizing that we did have an emergency need, especially with funding for, they come across with funds for the fogging and the air assault. They also purchased a brand new fogger, which it has been purchased and it's on its way. The county is also furnishing a decent newer truck for it to be mounted on. The county road department will be mounting it and getting it ready for service. They also gave us the assurance that the property tax increase for opening the budget shortfalls that we could accumulate so that we can accommodate extra fogging if necessary, or aerial assaults, which would increase our budget by about $80,000 a year. Some of the instrumental people that I'd like to mention, and there's many more I know behind the scenes, but Chris Baird and Terry Morris have been instrumental, Curtis Wells, Ruth Dillon, and of course the entire county council, and then the staff that's especially going to be taking part in helping with the new fogger. We did have a meeting today. Chris Baird, Terry Morris, Curtis Wells, and Ruth Dillon and myself had a meeting at 1:30 and looking at the logistics of the organization. At this point, the emergency need has has been taken care of. We do, I went away from the meeting looking forward to that, the working together, that I do believe everybody's is going to work diligently to make sure that we ensure and assure the people that the mosquito abatement district will be able to continue to do the program successfully. My thinking is, as far as the funding, I know we're always, as a government entity, you're always looking for different ways of funding. I do believe that traditionally, most of the funding always does come from the county property taxes, and that still remains the same. Part of this board is that or the meeting that we're doing, and is we're going to try to look at other ways of possibility of not allowing us to get into the spot where we need to dip into an emergency fund. We'll actually already have that fund instead of having to look for it. If there are any questions that I might be able to answer, I would be willing to answer. I do know that Libby has been working diligently. She is exhausted. We had been shorthanded and still are shorthanded, and then with equipment problems. But all of those things are going to be worked out. I do think that this would be, as a few people coined the phrase of the perfect storm, that has actually occurred over many different things and many different reasons, that has actually got us to that point where we're at now. I'm not going to put fingers towards anything or any certain thing or any certain practice, other than we're just going to learn from it and make sure that we do everything within our power to make sure that we can prevent this type of situation occurring ever again.
Thank you for this update. I will lighten the mood by saying that Lisa Church did make a good joke when she said it was the perfect swarm. But that we're very grateful for the county and the mosquito abatement district responding. I bet lots of people have questions, not just this council. So what's the best method for asking questions to your district at this time?
They could send an email to Moab MAD, Mosquito Abatement.
Moab MAD at
It's gmail.com.
at gmail.com. Moab MAD at gmail.com. If you have.
So it's MMAD at gmail.com.
Okay, mmad at gmail.com, if anybody in the community.
That address
has
is on the
questions.
county's website, is it not?
It is.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, it is.
As this district is a special service district of the county.
Yes, correct. The other one is we could answer it as a board, or you could actually show up at our monthly meetings that they're always held on Mondays, the first Monday of every month.
So your next meeting will be August, what's that first Monday date?
I don't know.
Karen, you got your calendar? What is that?
It is.
So
Who's going to get it first? Ronnie's going to get
Old
it.
school.
We
The
do
5th.
have one, I think, scheduled on the 15th.
When is it?
August 5th.
August 5th. At what time and where?
Well, it would be up at the Mosquito Abatement Board shop, which is right next to the recycle center.
Right next to the recycle center. At what time?
It's always at 5:30.
At 5:30 p.m.
We would need to I need to confirm that actual time. That's normally what it is, but this is being summer, and so. a lot
So
of
if that
times-
changes, you'll
If it
let us
changes,
know,
we'll
and
let you
we
know.
can, through Lisa, publish that information.
Yes,
If you want to get the word out, we can put it on our Facebook page.
will do.
Okay. Well, we've got a lot here on our agenda, but I'm really grateful for this update. I don't want to silence any questions, but I do think we need to move on, unless there is just a burning question.
I have a burning question.
Okay, burn away.
How do you notify the public on the dates of the fogging?
It goes out to all of our media, both radio stations It goes into the Times Independent, it goes into the Sun Times, it's put on Facebook.
So you have a Facebook page.
Well, we use the city's Facebook page, and I work with Lisa Church to make sure that she does a blast for us. But generally, it's always the main medias.
So we're happy to assist in publishing. We just want to just be very clear, though, that the district is very separate from Moab City and very separate from the county, but at least a district within the county, so.
We're just using the city's Facebook source because of the fact that it is monitored by a lot of the population of our community, and so it's an easy way to access them.
We're happy to help.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Is Rachel up?
No, Your Honor.
Chuck?
Your Honor. Old habits die hard.
Your lawyer.
Chuck Williams is going to present on construction impacts from the school construction and the hotel construction on Uranium and 100 East.
I would take your honor. I mean, I'm not
It's the mic, it's the whole setup.
gonna lie. Sometimes
Do I
it
need to get
feels
sworn
good.
in?
I swear.
I swear.
Hi,
Thank you.
Chuck, and welcome.
Wanted to brief council on an upcoming change in what we're calling the Uranium Avenue 100 East Construction Traffic Mitigation Plan. And what that is we have been concerned because there are multiple construction projects in a relatively small area beginning this summer and fall, and city staff is concerned about the impacts to public safety. Construction vehicles will be accessing off of Uranium Avenue and 100 East for the next 1 to 2 years in order to build a couple of projects, and I'll show you in a minute what those are. The area includes city market customers, which according to them may include up to 60% tourists in its delivery trucks. The middle school on 100 East, which has school buses and parents dropping off and picking up students. We've done some traffic counts this summer. 300 South is used by approximately 4,600 cars per day. Uranium Avenue is at 1,650 cars per day, and 100 East is at 2,100 cars per day. So those are relatively busy roads in our city. Additionally, there's heavy pedestrian traffic composed of high school and middle school students when school's in session, as well as there are tourists, as you know, who just travel by tour bus, dropped off, picked up, go get groceries, sightseeing. There's shops in the area. Specifically, the two projects are the new Radcliffe Hotel, which will be a 38-room hotel over first floor of commercial, where the Moab Tourism Center and the Gearheads complex are, and the laundromat complex. That's the triangular area there in the lower left. And then in the red area, that's the existing middle school, which will ultimately be demolished. And the new area to the right, item B there, is the new middle school. So it's essentially where the high school practice football field is. And as you can see, there's Mill Creek to the east of the new middle school, so there's no access coming off to the east or north. The only access for that project is either off of Uranium or off of 100 East. And because of the Radcliffe, access to it will also be off of Uranium, which is why we got concerned when we realized what was happening at the same time. So we decided to develop a mitigation plan. So we held a focus group on June 11th. Attending were representatives of the city building department, police department, public works department, engineering, code compliance. We had Grand County Middle School there, Moab Valley Fire District, City Market, Cobalt Construction, who's the contractor for the Radcliffe Motel, Hogan Construction, who's the contractor for the middle school. And we spent about 2 hours here talking this through, talking about ideas to what was the best way to try and address this public safety concern. The agreed upon actions included revising the traffic flow on Uranium and 100 East. And I'll show you in a moment what we're going to do, recommend we're going to do it. And public notifications, this is the first step at public notification here at the council tonight. We'll certainly do a lot more. The contractors will provide all signage and traffic control devices that are necessary in order to do this. And the agreed upon traffic flow revisions I'm gonna show you in the following exhibits. But I would also say that we had 2 subsequent meetings were held with various focus group members to review and comment on the development of the exhibits. We did the exhibits in-house and the signing and striping plan because we could just move quickly on it. Took a while, but it had to get done because school starts August 15th. So there's some immediacy to this. And this is the traffic flow, and I know this may be a little bit difficult to follow, but if you, in the red, excuse me.
Do you want me to try to point while you
Sure, that'd
go?
be great, thank you.
Okay.
On the right, lower right, is the Uranium Avenue coming off of Main Street.
There's Main Street,
Yep.
Uranium.
And that's, the new Radcliffe will be that triangular parcel in there. And what they're gonna do is maintain that gearhead strip mall as long as they can during construction until they get the new gearhead building built, try and move them in there, then tear down the gearhead strip mall, the existing one, and continue on with the remainder of the construction. So it's part of this is exacerbated by the fact that that parcel will still have working businesses in there while there's new construction going on. I could go into why that's happening, but I won't in the interest of time. So what we are proposing to do is turn Uranium, and was agreed upon, see how it's at an odd angle coming off of Main Street? It's not at a 90-degree angle, it's at an acute angle. You can't get semi-tractor trailers off of Main Street from northbound to turn onto that with the existing conditions with 2-lane traffic and with parking on both sides of the street. And there's no other way to access it. So, and that's also the access route for the school buses during school, which starts. So what we're gonna do is the red area there, Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, please, we're gonna make those no parking zones. That'll become a one-way street on Uranium. Traffic will come up, turn, they'll have the ability to turn on 100 East and go down to that point where traffic will turn into 2-way traffic because there by the Bark Park where 300 South and 100 East meet is a really popular route for people to get into City Market from the east and the south. And
The City Market Sneak.
yeah, City Market Sneak, that's a,
Yeah.
yeah, I know it
So
well.
our sneak is still available.
The sneak is still available. We know this is a change. If I may, the thing that we've also worked out is there will be a school drop-off zone where the yellow dashed is along 100 East. And if, that will allow about 14 parking stalls, yes, up in there. So during drop-off and pickup at the middle school, we think it's advantageous to have that as one-way as well, because there'll be plenty of room for wide school drop-off, one-way traffic exiting. The contractors have agreed that they will direct their construction trucks and vendors to only access off of Uranium and to only exit off of 100 East all the way out to 300 South, and then have them turn on 300 South to come down to the traffic signal, and then they'll use the traffic signal to either go south or north. I can tell you that, you know, City Market was at the meeting. They weren't crazy because one of the things that'll happen is, if I ask you one more time, please.
I like this job.
Yeah, really get some exercise. From Uranium, if you go up to the left, stop, too fast, come back to the left, right there, that driveway is going to be closed for in and out traffic.
That's where the picnic table is.
Well, but look at the other, that's the one. Yeah, and, but,
Be fine.
you know, we all talked it through, you know, with this focus group, the pluses and minuses, and, you know, City Market agreed that, you know, they would try to work through this with us. And then also, Gearheads was concerned that they wanted to park in City Market and cross the street, and that's not a good plan with all the traffic. So what we were able to do is put nose-in angle parking up there.
Is that what this is?
Up there, yeah, we got 10 stalls up
So
there.
you can drive and
You can drive there and still get into Gearheads, which will make for a safer construction site, and yet there'll still be some public parking, and we're going to sign that no construction parking, so construction workers can't park there or construction traffic.
Perfect.
So we have a detailed plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on it. I know that's a lot of information to hit you with at once, but the contractors are cooperative. We met yesterday, gave them the cost estimate, though they'll go and get their own bids. And the proposal was that they would essentially split the costs of the traffic control that'll be in place for the next year. The Radcliffe says they're a year worth of construction, and the school will be 18 months.
Please tell me you're going to end up repaving First East.
Oh, I think it's going to be necessary at the end.
It's one of the worst streets in town.
Yeah, it is. It's got to be done whether this project happens or not. I know when you get a prioritization list, 100 East will be on it.
Good.
For paving.
Okay, thank you so much. That was very helpful, and if we have further questions, we can get in touch with you.
Do I have one more minute?
Oh, you have 1 more minute.
1 more minute. Clock's ticking. The other thing I wanted to show you was this photo. Different, same topic, public safety, different location. This is,
That's the Hawk.
no, this is not Moab. This is a location in
What is-
Colorado. And what I would like to point out to you is, you see
That is
this,
not Moab.
you see this sign up here, which is turning vehicles yield to pedestrians. I know council, at least various members of council at the public meeting says, we've been asking UDOT to put in left turn lanes off of Main Street, and that they're just not doing that, and they're not going to do
Turn
that.
signals.
Left turn signals, thank you, excuse me. Left turn signals. This is a treatment that at least reminds traffic that's turning left to look for pedestrians in the crosswalk that may be in there if you get caught out there under a red scenario. And also, the other thing I wanted to point out is, see how on this pole mounted, there's a traffic signal globes right here. The problem is in Moab, and I've had experience it myself as well as with many others, there's so many tractor trailers, if you get behind one, you end up running the red light sometime because you cannot see the traffic signal on the mast, which is all that we have right now. So I presented this to UDOT, and they just told me yesterday that they're going to do this on the traffic signals on Main Street. They will install the side mount signals, and they'll install that sign. So we think that's a big plus for public safety. It doesn't get us everything we'd hoped in terms of the left turn signals, but that'll be a change coming. So
That is exciting, an exciting update.
I'm allowed to say something. I'm just,
Yes.
at this point, at our sustainability meeting, it was mentioned that you could only make a right-hand turn, and that it saved thousands of gallons of gas and emissions. So I'm just curious, have you heard about that? You can't make a left, you can only make a right, and UPS did it?
UPS has done it for
But-
decades.
Well,
So I'm just curious, if that would be very applicable
so
for our community.
So the theory there is you're not sitting there idling, right, in a
Right.
left turn bay. The theory is you're moving, which has less emissions. But then if you're going all the way around the block, you're driving further mileage. So I haven't seen that study, but I understand the theory behind that one.
I just know UDOT, when we said that we potentially would take left-hand turns away, they were very, very excited.
Yeah, they might be.
Well, let's just let that one
Okay, I'm
marinate.
just
Yeah, I know.
Let's just marinate.
Related.
This is good. This is marinate.
different.
Different. Okay, thank you, Chuck. Thank you so much. All right, moving right along, because gosh, we're at 8:10.
Chief?
2 more reports. We're still at administrative reports, item 7 on our agenda.
We're almost
A lot of
done.
stuff happening.
I will make
Everyone's so
mine
engaged. It's
quick.
Hi, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you. On Sunday, several of our officers had the incredible opportunity to escort 27 children whose parents were killed in the line of duty as law enforcement officers as they were passing through town en route to a whitewater rafting adventure in Bluff. We notified the public on Facebook that this was happening, and we we were thrilled that so many people came out, lined the sides of the streets with flags and balloons and waving and cheering at the kids as they went by. It was an extremely emotional and just really an incredible opportunity for us. So I'd like to thank the community for coming out in such great numbers for that, especially on last minute's notice. We're going through a lot of staffing issues. We are currently down 3 officers. We were down 4 fairly recently. We hired an officer, a deputy from San Juan County, who is currently in field training. He's got 5 years of experience, and we'll complete his field training by the end of this month, at which point we will sort of stem the bleeding as far as our staffing issues are concerned. We have also extended 3 conditional offers to candidates for employment to fill the last 3 remaining positions. If they complete the rest of our selection process, they'll start the academy on September 9th. They'll graduate December 19th, go through 12 weeks of training, and then we'll be able to release them out into the real world right around mid to end of March next year. And if we can maintain staffing levels and we don't have anybody go out on injury or quit, then we'll be full staffed. That'll be incredible. Related to that, we are down 1 sergeant as a result of Tom Nixon's retirement. We have started a selection process for a new sergeant. We expect that to be complete by the end of August, at which point we will have a new patrol sergeant in place and moving right along. I know there's a lot of interest in fireworks and the fires that they may cause. So on July 4th, we responded to 9 fires inside city limits. All of them, thank God, were small. They weren't large fires, but we chased firework calls all evening and responded to 9 fires. And then last thing I'd like to update you on is we are going through a process right now to send all of our senior officers through a 3-day leadership training that's conducted up north in Salt Lake. It's a phenomenal course. I've been through it myself, and it's really a great way to get some of these officers into sort of that leadership mindset. You know, these are folks who have been with us for a minimum of 4 or 5 years and are in a position to mentor newer officers. So sending them through this training, I think, is going to be really valuable for the community as well as our agency. Last thing I'd like to say is you all, as council members and mayor, have an open invitation to do ride-alongs with our officers. If you would like to do that, we would encourage you just to get in touch with us and we will get something scheduled. I think it would be a valuable learning experience for you just to see what we do on a daily basis, what kinds of calls we respond to, and you know the folks that we deal with in the community each and every day. So if you're interested, let us know. We would love to have you come right along with us. Questions?
Is it like it is on TV?
What's that?
Never mind. It's
Sometimes
just a joke.
sometimes
Like
it
it
is.
is.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I was just saying, could we use the siren?
Karen wants to do
Sure,
a bike
why not?
along. Karen wants to do a bike along.
Do what?
A bike along.
A bike along on the handlebars? Thank you
buddy.
very much.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Chief.
And
Rachel?
Yep, lastly would be Rachel with Finance.
Dongle.
Huck?
Good evening.
Good evening.
You saved the shortest update for last.
Fantastic.
Taxes, not, I was joking.
Not the short, okay.
So just really quick, while I'm bringing up the overhead, I just wanted to let you know a couple of finance items that will come before the council in the next couple of meetings. One, I think I've already talked to you about, it's the debt management policy. I'm making the final revisions. Our financial consultant has reviewed it, and it will be the document that the governing body decides when the city would go into debt, for what purpose we would go into debt, and what type of debt we will carry. And that will be the first piece that falls into place prior to our capital improvements planning process, which Joel scheduled the first meeting for. So,
And that, we've been doing that with Zion's public finances.
yes, they
We've been
reviewed the
writing
document
this.
for us. The other piece
Will
that
they be here for that? that meeting? Well,
Oh,
Alex?
it's actually a document that I put together, and then Alex just did an initial review to make sure that it was in compliance with bonding requirements.
I just know
for
he
the
comes
state.
with chocolate, so
I could invite him if you'd like me to.
shameless.
And then also you'll be seeing a memorandum of understanding in the next, I'll say month, unless I get it done sooner, for Moab Art Trails, which will be a formalized agreement updated to reflect the Art in Public Places program that's currently taking place, fine-tuning some insurance requirements. So that'll be coming before you for approval. And then also the master fee resolution, which I'm not sure if have you talked about it in previous meetings?
Not in this not in the public meeting, no.
Okay. Well, that will be coming before you with all of the fees that the city charges across all departments. The treasurer has been anxious to get our new sewer rates in place, and that is part of the master fee schedule. So we're tentatively hoping to get that to you at the next city council meeting once departments have had a chance to review it.
And it's out to all of them for review, has been for the last week. So should be on for the next agenda.
Okay.
So we've talked about tax reform. We just put some information out this week to the council and the public. I had the opportunity to attend a task force public hearing yesterday, which was supposed to be in Kaysville. It was actually in Layton. For those that don't know, the state is faced right now with the complicated issue of having sales tax revenue for the state siloed, as well as income tax revenue for the state siloed. And the uses for each of those revenue streams is restricted. And there's some inequity right now between the two revenue streams. So the state legislature had proposed or reviewed a bill during the last legislative session that didn't go anywhere, which was good news for us because it would have had some pretty drastic effects to our revenue streams at the city. And instead, they formed a subcommittee made up of legislators to study the issue, come back with recommendation, and form a new bill. So as part of that process, they are holding 8 town hall/public hearings around the state. We're very fortunate that we were one of those locations. And so that meeting will be on July 20th at the Grand Center at 1 p.m. I attended the Kaysville meeting just to kind of get a preview of what the meeting is like so that we can be better prepared as both council, staff, and the community. And I actually brought back, I'll pass around to you real quick, and I scanned them and sent them out to you as well. There hasn't been a lot of information thus far because the subcommittee was formed fairly quickly and they've been trying to get organized. So I brought back quite a bit of information from the meeting, which we will have on our website. One of the things that I wanted to let you know is that there will not be a meeting between the subcommittee and the governing body prior to the public hearing, which was what they had first put out there, but they decided they couldn't accommodate that with every community that they were having the public hearing in. So the council's opportunities to speak to the subcommittee will be at the town hall meeting on July 20th. Following the format they've had at all previous meetings, you get 90 seconds to speak, and they hold everyone to that. The meeting I went to last night had between 250, 300 people. Only 30 were allowed to speak given the time constraint and the 90-second time limit. There was a lot of good information that they put out at the meeting as far as some of the options they might consider, and also the community and the speakers there were struggling with the subcommittee's ability to define the problem that they're actually trying to solve. So there's a bit of ambiguity out there about why these changes need to be made. All that being said, any of the solutions that they look at could have a significant impact on us as a city and our community for government funding in general. We rely heavily on sales tax because of our high visitation. Moab City does not collect a property tax. We have been fortunate for many years that prior city council in the 90s decided that sales tax could replace property tax. So all of the services that the city offers right now are either through user fees, through sales tax, and through an assortment of other taxes. I'm just going to show you real quick. We have a website set up for the public, moabcity.org/taxes. Goes through all of the information that I'm just kind of skimming over right now. shows where our revenue comes from, information that we can get out to the community prior to the public hearing. Community involvement, engagement, and participation is crucial. The state legislature is coming to us. They would like to hear what Moab thinks about tax reform and tax restructuring. So we've also put the information out to the chamber. I think we're gonna arrange a meeting with the chamber to talk to businesses about expanding the sales tax base to include services, what that means to businesses. I heard a lot of concern from local business owners at the Davis County meeting last night. The other hot topic at that meeting was education, because since there is a surplus in the state education fund, several people brought up that we're still spending the fewest dollars per student per capita in the country. And so I'm sure that will come up at our meeting as well. But the main thing is to get information out to the public so that they understand what's before us and what some of the ripple effects could be. We have a press release that we did this week and also an advertisement, both that our communications director put out. There's handouts out on the table as well. That's on our website. So I would just encourage everyone to spread the word, try to get people to attend. It is at the Grand Center. The subcommittee just recently put together a website, which I just found out about last night, which goes through some of the outlining of the process that they're engaging in right now, and also just a very high overview of some of the solutions they may be looking at. It is strongerfutures.utah.gov. And then I just wanted to let you know that after they finish this process, then they will be formulating amongst the subcommittee a solution to take back to the state legislature. They'll be holding public hearings up at the Capitol on those before they finalize what the bill will be. So I believe we're definitely planning on having a presence for those meetings as well. And we are very grateful to the Utah League of Cities and Towns for being our lobbying voice and for everything that they are doing, working with both the subcommittee and the legislature to make sure that cities in general are held harmless, but resort communities particularly, because we are so dependent on sales tax revenues and sales-based taxes.
Did the city used to have a property tax?
It did.
Way back? Really?
Yes. We are one of just a very few cities in the state that does not currently levy a property tax.
And the others actually levy a tax based within their boundaries. So I'd argue you're the only city in the state that doesn't levy a property tax.
Yeah.
But remember, we used to at one time.
Yes, we did.
Really?
City council, I believe it was in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, voted to take the assessment, the levy down to zero, because it was the initial stage of the boom of tourism, and it was actually right after the bust of the uranium market. So they were trying to help offset the local economy for locals and then pick that up with sales tax. And we're extremely fortunate that we have been able to utilize sales tax for this many years without a property tax.
And the property tax still is in place. It's just been turned down to 0.00000%.
It's been at zero for 25 plus years.
I want to make a point to say that the big picture of this is the state saying, we tax these services. We want to tax these services. But if we tax these services and we broaden the base of who is taxed, we don't want to have too much. So then we're going to squish down and collect less sales tax. And that's where we have a problem, because we depend on this. And we in Moab, because we're a resort community, are not going to feel this. We don't have this. Our services aren't here. And so if I can impress upon all of us to really get focused on what the true concern is for us as a resort community, it's that broadening the base isn't going to create a windfall in our community where a reduction of sales tax is going to compensate. What we will feel is a false security. They'll broaden the base, we won't see a whole lot extra revenue, and we're gonna see a reduction based on the existing revenue that we receive. I don't know how we translate that into a suggestion whether or not resort communities are exempt from the reduction of sales tax?
So I'm working on putting together some talking points and some possible suggestions that we could make. The league has suggested that we not strongly suggest one particular solution, but that we demonstrate what the ripple effects would be on our community for several of the options that they have. And the options that they have aren't really clear at this point. So if I could just impress upon you one graph. So sales-based taxes, which include sales tax, transient room, highway, resort community, make up 81% of our general fund revenue. When you look at the total taxable sales for a 4-year period from 2015 to 2018, 61% of those sales can be attributed to tourism in our community. So, and then when you look at what those top sales are, it's overnight accommodation, restaurants, gasoline, retail food and beverage stores. So that is definitely a point that we should all emphasize with the subcommittee, that by definition of being a resort community, our base is already out of balance.
And then if we need to drive it home, how critical it is that they understand the impact, that we are dealing with unintended consequences of tourism. We need the resources and that sales tax revenue to be able to mitigate our unintended consequences of tourism. So it's a double whammy for us, especially as a resort community.
We can't provide the services for our visitors balanced on the backs of our permanent residents. And shifting away from a sales tax-based model.
We'll do just that.
We'll do that. Thank you so much, Rachel. That was a really good.
So Rachel, are you and Joel and the mayor, for example, and Ms. Dillon is out here, all those, just you 4 people would be worth thousands of other people speaking like myself. So, because you guys actually know what you're talking about. Are you guys all gonna?
I'll be attending the Lehigh meeting.
And one of the things that the league,
Well, what I thought what we could do is have one person speak on behalf of the council, whether it's Joel or a council member.
yeah, one of the things that the league and other cities, they're trying to avoid is that it gets hijacked by the governmental entity. And so we do want to participate, and we do want to designate someone to speak, but we don't want it to be so overwhelming that it feels like the city's overtaking the public hearing. So,
However, if we do have a written shared message,
Yeah.
Everybody could stand up together, the council could stand
Yeah.
in unison.
and take 90 seconds and have it done all at once. I mean, that's not a bad idea at all.
I was planning on making a statement as finance director, but if you think that would be too much in combination with elected officials, I'm happy to have multiple messages shared.
Maybe the statement from you and the council standing with you during that statement could be a good impact.
I think an elected official speaking as well. would
Yeah, I
also
think
have-
two's good. I think if
Okay.
we start getting into more than that, then it's off-putting to them.
Okay.
Last night's meeting
Yes.
was a larger geographic area, but there was, I would say, 8 elected officials that spoke last night with the 90-second time limit. So the other thing I would say is it depends on how many people show up, and I'm hopeful that we can completely fill the quota of how many speakers they will allow. So.
That'd be great. Mike?
So since we're talking about new uses for some of our commercial areas, it struck me that maybe we should create a Moab Legal Center, okay, and invite a whole bunch of attorneys come down here, and if they decide to tax legal services, we'll have another income source to help
Yeah.
offset our
All right,
losses.
we got to move on. Thank you so much, Rachel.
That is the problem, though. We don't provide the
We don't have
services they're
professional
looking to tax.
services.
That's exactly it.
Okay, so we're moving right along. Section 8, citizens to be heard. Crail Stagelmeyer. Did I pronounce your name? I ruined it? I did it? Oh, you did great. Oh, good. Thank you, and welcome, and thank you for sitting through all of that.
Oh, no, that's great. I just wanted to formally request on and I know you guys are probably sick of hearing about nightly rentals, but I have a piece of property at 656 West, 400 North, and I bought this roughly 5 years ago, and life happened. I never had time to build on it, but it is surrounded by Entrada at Moab, all nightly rentals. And last fall, started drawing up plans to finally build. I wanted to build a couple condos, my brother and I, so that I would have one and he would have one, so we'd have places to stay when we come down. And then in order to afford that, we have to rent it out. I can't afford to keep a place empty. And I was informed in November that no longer would I be able to do that. I sent you guys an email on December 5th informing all of you of my intentions to build what I was going to build there. I discussed my intent with Joel several times in December. He informed me when it had been reversed that I had several months before any other changes could be made. I discussed it again on the phone with Joel in January and asked him if the city council had done anything to change it so I wouldn't be able to continue. He informed me no discussion had been made. I continued to hire and pay an engineer to draw up plans. I had never applied for a permit because I was trying to get all my ducks in a row. And then when I came to ask for a building permit application in February, they informed me of the moratorium. At that time, then I had my builder call the 1st of March to ask if we could still apply, so once the moratorium was over, we would be considered, and they informed him that they would not even accept the application. So I'm just asking that you look at the location of my lot and you look at the investment that I've done in this thus far to this point and consider that to be grandfathered in as a possible nightly rental. The problem with my property is the location of it. It really doesn't work well as anything else because it's surrounded by nightly rentals. So as far as building just residential there, anyway, and then, you know, as far as commercial use, it's almost a mile, it's 3/4 of a mile off the main street. So that's hard to do like a coffee shop or something like that with how far it is. And I'm open to other suggestions in the future, like maybe a couple of long-term apartments with a condo for me that I can nightly rental and a condo for my brother. So anyway, I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Sarah Melnikoff.
I just have two things. One is at the end of June, I went to the ballpark after hearing activity all day long on Saturday. There still is nobody coordinating anything to do with the recycling in the public place. So I know the trash cans and the recycle bins hadn't been empty prior to a large event. So when I went Sunday morning around 5:30 in the morning, everything was overflowing. I spent about 2 hours and my hands smelled for 2 days, even though I had gloves on, pulling out several hundred containers from the trash cans, making sure the recycle bins were clean, emptying liquids out of 60 to 70% of those bottles, positioning everything well. And I did notice when they were picked up, there was only one with a green tag on it, and I emptied that into the trash and put everything back. I feel like I'm saying, hey, your house is on fire, wake up. And you're like, okay. Hey, your house is on fire. It's been weeks and weeks and weeks. And the recycling it's setting a horrible example to the community, to the kids. It's putting lots of good recycling in the landfill, tons of it. I hear from all the city workers out on the street. They sit at Swanee and they watch Monument because you guys aren't taking care of them. Stop down the trash can so they can dump the recycle bin in the trash because it's so contaminated. So I've installed a recycle bin at one of the parks. I check it every day. It's positioned between 2 trash cans. It takes less than 4 minutes to maintain it. I pull the recycling out of the trash, and I maintain it. It's very simple. I went to after the 4th of July, I drove by, I saw all the trash cans were out on the street of the ballpark. The recycle bins were in there by themselves. So I knew I was in for it again, so I pulled all the trash cans in. I emptied the recycle bins of tons of fireworks and threw them in the trash. Repositioned everything. There's still no signage on the bins are like this high, and a lot of the kids are this high. They cannot see that that says recycle. And I brought that to the attention. I offered to send signs. I will even laminate them and put them on. It's very frustrating to me, and I can imagine what's happening at Swanee, along the Parkway, and the other parks, Lions Park. And Moab Solutions was founded on the idea that for every challenge, there's a solution. But I feel like I'm talking and nobody can hear me. I'm experiencing an elevated sense of frustration with this. I've been working on it very hard. The other thing with this option 1 that you guys are going to look at tonight, is that something that's going to be voted on? Because it changes the definition of solid waste, and it creates a situation where Monument could possibly have a monopoly on picking up recycling in this town. And I am deeply concerned about that, and I'm curious if that's what's going to happen, because I would have to mount a legal challenge, because I don't believe that that is correct. I could say this table is a giraffe. I want to redefine what a table is, but it's still a table. And so I'm very concerned. There's a lot of typos. There's a lot of people have been omitted from the process who could really bring a lot to the table. And I'd like to see if there's a way to like backtrack and make some amendments and try to get everyone working together, because we are much more together than we are in each isolated little pocket. And I think there's a way to make things work so that recycling actually means something. So I guess I have to hang around and see if you're going to vote on this, but I guess you can't answer me if you're going to vote on that.
Well, stay tuned. It's noticed as briefing and possible action, so we shall see. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. And I'll keep working at the ballpark.
Ruth Dillon?
Good evening. All up close. Last time I was here was December, and I was at a podium. This is a little more comfortable and cozy. So I'm here to say and express my gratitude, first of all, for all the work that's been done on the C2, and I know it's bigger than C2, but my world is C2 right now, ordinance, which is on the agenda tonight. I know it's a draft agenda. It's been quite an evolutionary process, and a huge, I'll say substantial public process that I know you all have been very much engaged in. And I want to just say, that takes a lot of brain power and a lot of effort and a lot of diligence, but really it takes a lot of care. And what I've seen transpire over the various changes in the ordinance, this is where I feel personal appreciation and gratitude. Having that definition for an established overnight accommodation, not only is it simpler and more transparent, but it also honors those of us who made those investments for our retirements or whatever those purposes may be. And it also honors, what those buildings were constructed for and what those zones were intended for. And so there's an integrity there to that as well. In the face of this bigger, challenging problem that you all are having to deal with. And so finding that balance, I know it's not an easy thing. That's what I'm trying to say. I really feel a great, great deal of appreciation because you all have been so diligent with this and staying with it and listening and hearing all kinds of different concerns from all kinds of areas and having to look at the bigger picture and having to think of locals too and all of it anyway. So yeah, gratitude, appreciation. And the only other thing I want to say is I know that the map that's in the draft it doesn't look updated for the Cottonwoods. It doesn't show them all as existing established uses. And so I just want to bring that to your attention. I believe Nora's going to be bringing that out and getting that updated. But anyway, thank you again. I know it's not all over. Things could change and you still have big decisions to make. And so anyway, I just wanted to say my piece.
Thank you, Ruth. Bob Wood.
evening, everyone. Mayor Niehaus and everyone on the council, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Bob Wood. My wife and I are owners of one of the units at Entrada at Moab, located on 4th North. We just recently took ownership of our homeowners association, and I am here tonight to let you know that I'm also the president of our homeowners association, so I'm going to attempt to speak not only for my wife and I, but for the other 44 owners at Entrada. And I sit here with great humility this evening, and I want to let you know that I really respect the process that you are going through this evening, and I want to express my and our other owners' gratitude for, and I'm going to quote off your issue 10.1, for allowing established overnight accommodations to remain legal uses. And I very much appreciate that consideration and express gratitude. In closing, as a side note, that came to me listening to the conversation regarding sales tax, I'd like to think that our little 4 acres, that Entrada encompasses is a wonderful little economic engine for not only Grant, but also the city of Moab and the sales taxes that it does generate. So thank you very much for your time this evening. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Are there any other citizens to be heard? I have no other forms. Okay. We are moving on in our agenda to old business, as we did our presentations, our swearing-in presentation earlier tonight. 10.1, an ordinance amending the City of Moab Municipal Code, removing overnight accommodations as a permitted use and allowing established overnight accommodations to remain legal in the C1, C2, C3, C4, RC, and SAR zones, amending sections 17.06, definitions 17.20, 17.21, 17.24, 17.27, 17.31, and 17.32. Nora, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I wanted to update you on action that the Planning Commission took. You're largely aware of this because I've been trying to keep you in the loop. But the Planning Commission at their meeting last week on the 3rd, on Wednesday night, forwarded a positive recommendation to you on ordinance 2019-18. And there is a draft included in your packet. There's also the draft that was included in your packet had been vetted initially, anyway, by our legal counsel. And after some discussion, after we put this up for questions, council questions and comments on the agenda, there were a number of typos and confusion about some things. And so I just did a really quick draft. A really quick draft that has some of those red lines changed. And they're not substantive at all. They just have some things corrected and clarified.
Yes.
So that's what I passed out. It's not, again, it's not substantive. At this point in time, we're asking that you review the ordinance and comment on it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And provide additional direction to the staff about any additions, deletions, revisions, whatever you want. And we would propose that then we would try to incorporate whatever direction we get and bring it back to you in 2 weeks for action. And part of the reason for that is between, Chris has asked, there's still a couple things, technical things, and he wants to make sure he has all his I's dotted and T's crossed, and there are a couple things that we still want to change. And but again, they are not substantive. They are making sure we have the whereases and all that all right, and that the language is all
So changes
consistent.
to what you just passed out, or this incorporates?
Yes.
So additional. Chris, you want to do a final review?
Yeah, essentially.
Change anything?
Over the holiday, I talked with Nora, and there were just a few issues that came up in that discussion that our goal is not to change anything that the Planning Commission has recommended, but mainly to make the intention of the ordinance very clear that this is a text amendment process that we're going through, and maybe clarifying some of the findings that would go with that. So we're not talking about substantive changes, but wanting to be very careful about how we do this. So my recommendation tonight is that you look at this, that you table action on it, and you get back to us with additional comments, and that we'll hopefully have this approved next council meeting, if you're all comfortable with it.
Sounds great. And this map that's hanging, this established?
This map is hot off the press today. And what we did with the Planning Commission and the whole map exercise is this map is intended to be an attachment or an exhibit to a text amendment in the ordinance. So we're not changing zoning, and we're not changing the zoning map per se. What we're doing is we're adding a map as an attachment that identifies what we have defined as established overnight accommodations. The initial list that we got to do the preliminary map was based on a list of nightly rental business licenses that had been issued. So that was the base for it. And then I've talked to a number of folks in town, and also at the Planning Commission meeting, we laid the map out on the table and tried to figure out what existed and what didn't, and made sure that the map was as correct as possible. And so we've made revisions in the map, those two maps. There's one here and there's one in the hall for people to take a look at if they wish. And what we have done is we've broadened some areas a little bit, like Williams Way, where those are already built product that were built to be considered as overnight accommodations or whatever. We've included that entire area. We've included all of the Entrada units, whether or not they're currently being nightly rented. We did not really want to tie it directly to nightly rental business licenses, because we want someone who owns a property on Williams Way, for example. If they're living there now, we didn't want to force them to get a business license for something that they weren't planning to do. So that's sort of the philosophy behind including some units that aren't currently nightly rented, but they were built in projects that were intended always to be nightly rental, at least as an option. So that's what the map is showing.
So tonight, it just seems like if we've got some hanging questions that we want to discuss now, if we want to have a mapping exercise, otherwise, here it is.
Right.
This is the map.
Right.
This is the ordinance. And the recommendation from our attorney is to vote in 2 weeks. So we've got an additional 2 weeks to receive any final public comment. And at that point, in 2 weeks, we can have some final deliberation and move forward.
Exactly, that's what the plan is.
And everyone feels good about that on the council?
Yes, and may I interject at the moment? I know, Nora, I want to thank you for answering a bunch of our questions. I still got some more. Could I make it, rather than do them tonight? 'Cause it takes too much time. Myself can come in and just talk to you one-on-one, and maybe one other council member would like to join me, for example.
Yep.
So when would be a good time?
Let's schedule that offline.
It'll be early next week. It'll be next week.
But Nora, thank you for that, because I think that might be really helpful and efficient and effective.
Sure, no, I think
based
that's a
on
great idea.
comments that we had tonight, we'll definitely all look at the map and know that we're going to sit with a decision.
Right. Now, a couple things I wanted to point out. that we've been getting a lot of emails. And many of those went to the Planning Commission because that's where the public hearing was. But I have forwarded everything that I've gotten to you. And I just want the public to be assured that you've seen all of that communication as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you for forwarding, and thank you for that. And I also want to thank the Planning Commission for having the public hearing and doing that work and fielding that effort. And so we're very grateful for the recommendation.
Yeah, I listened in on the whole meeting. That's the first one I've ever listened to all in its entirety, and I thought it went pretty well. I mean, did you guys think so? I don't know.
The Planning Commission runs pretty efficiently. That's what happens when you have a school teacher as a chair.
That's right. That's right. Okay, well, I don't want to, take too much time, but what do you guys think? Final questions?
I have a process question, because if we're coming to the next meeting, then hopefully everything's squeaky clean and, in the packet ready to go. So sometimes when we have questions, we have a shared Google document where we can all see the questions other people are asking. And I didn't know if that would be helpful for this, only because in the run-up to this, I think on the last shared document, some people had questions about language, and it's kind of it would be more clear to me coming in what language other people are considering if they want changes. So it would just help me to see what other council members have. And I just wanted to, in our packet, I think it said proposed and existing accommodation. So pretty much the existing ones now is the banner phrase for everything that's both already built and vested, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then.
Can I just comment on that? Because
yeah.
I'm wondering if that council comment form is really the best
I don't know.
place for that. I think better is going to be conversations among council members.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just thought if people have
In a non-quorum.
language changes they want to propose, it's, I don't even know if we need an extra meeting, but it becomes messy, right? If somebody wants a new paragraph, like right at the last meeting before you want to approve it, if you're trying to change a paragraph or something. I don't know.
Well, because we have other than how quickly can you do your edits?
Oh, yeah,
Any
very
final
quickly.
edits?
And I'm not anticipating wholesale revisions.
Just
I'm
like
thinking about technical changes.
You're going to do a final legal review.
Yes.
So if you can do that and get it to this council, today's Tuesday, by,
Nora, what do you think by the end of the week? Oh, well, actually, the end of the week is going to be bad for me, but we'll get it to you,
by Monday of next week, so that this council has a full
Tuesday?
week.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Tuesday of next week.
Let's do it by Tuesday next week.
So that this council has, Tuesday would still be a full week to be able to submit questions and comments, language suggestions. Maybe what you could do is I really do think that the council doc that we utilize is not going to be the best tool for that, and it's going to be sharing suggested language one-on-one with council members, or two-on-two, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I'd be
Okay.
happy to meet, make arrangements to meet with 2 of you at a time, or 1 of you at a time, or whatever. That's fine. If you have questions.
So you're going to hold me off till next, I don't have to have the document, the Google Docs that Chris is talking about. I mean, I got plenty of questions right now. But you want me to wait till next week then before I come in?
Well, just because my schedule is totally jammed for the next 2 days. And then I have to be in Salt Lake on Friday.
Oh.
Some stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk to you tomorrow, but it's just not going to happen.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, that gives you time to collate your questions.
Okay, that's great.
And Thursday I have planning commission, so
Okay.
that's.
So I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we table this ordinance until the next meeting.
Thank you, Tawny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rodney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. We are into new business. It is 8:55. 11-1, award of the Integrated Financial Software Services Proposal, briefing and possible action. Rachel, will you come up just in case we have any questions for you? Depending on the questions that you have, I would entertain questions or a motion.
So what's the cost difference between what the city is currently paying now for Polaris.
And I just wanted to say, I apologize for the late hour that I got this out to you today based on the questions that were on the shared council document. But I was driving back from the tax meeting, so I didn't get back into the office until this afternoon. But I'm happy to go over that. The annual cost difference for the maintenance fee, which is the monthly fee, is an annual difference of $5,088. There is an upfront cost, which is expected whenever you switch software providers, because you have to pay for training, setup, and conversion. That upfront cost is $47,288. That's a one-time cost. And then after that...
And that was budgeted?
Yes.
Correct?
It was. The difference in the annual cost after that is $5,088. I did make a note in there as far as transitioning away from the current payroll processing service that we're using, ADP, that we estimate there's about 624 hours of staff time annually right now across 3 different positions that are going into dealing with issues that we are having with our current provider. So that could also be calculated as part of the difference in cost.
Thank you, Rachel. Any other questions or a motion?
So, I'm sorry, Rachel, so just the difference is 5,000 a year plus the $47,000 to get this going?
Correct. So this will replace our current financial software, which is Polaris Methods, which we currently pay for, and then ADP payroll processing that we use for human resources, payroll, and applicant tracking. And so after the initial setup, because that's the initial setup fee, it's not part of the monthly maintenance, the annual difference in cost will be $5,088 because we'll be paying $3,674 per month for the maintenance and hosting of the software.
For what it's worth, I talked to Danny, and Danny was like, this is just going to be such a big improvement. Also, having been a person that ran payroll and understands that there are intricacies and reporting, and hearing Danny say that the reporting would be much easier and much more streamlined. Again, having been a person that runs reports, that runs payroll, that has calculated employer taxes and the end of the year reports, that having a system that is like user friendly is really important. So, and that Danny was very vocal in saying this is a much needed switch.
Rachel, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but short of that, do you have any good guess at how many years we could expect this to work well for us? You know, I'm just thinking about how many years I'm breaking up that 47,000 over.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can say that previously to switching to Polaris, we were a Cassell customer.
Yeah.
We were one of the oldest Cassell customers, and we had been with them for over 25 years at the point that we switched to Polaris. So if that's an indication, we've been on Polaris for 10 years. We were with Cassell previously for 25. I'd be conservative and say probably at least 10 years, maybe 25. The cost does not change annually unless we add users.
Okay.
They do have a inflationary increase of 1% to 3%, and they said that that's usually every 3 to 5 years.
But that's probably similar to all software service providers.
So this is a price per seat that's fixed as long as you don't, for the 10-year period, for example?
It's not fixed for 10 years if we add users or if we add modules. So
I understand that, but if you don't?
There is an inflationary increase that they said is every 3 to 5 years.
That counts as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And is this for 4 users? I mean,
12.
Oh, sorry.
So this is our entire financial platform. So this is accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll and human resources, general ledger, utility billing, business licensing, animal licensing, projects, capital project tracking, budgeting.
And they won't give you a come on back on board discount?
This is our come on back.
Really?
Yes, the last time we got a quote, it was well over $100,000 for on-premise hosted. And we're actually excited that they're doing remote hosted now, because software as a service is where it's at. We don't want to host it on our server here. Then we have to continually upgrade hardware. But we tried. We were one of the oldest customers.
Any other conversation that would affect how you would vote?
No, I'm just curious.
Okay.
So how about migration issues? And I mean, do you expect to be able to move seamlessly? There won't be any missed paychecks or anything, that kind of thing?
Yes, we never want to miss paychecks, ever. But yes, migration is included, and we actually went through kind of the opposite migration 10 years ago when we migrated from Cassell over to Polaris. And since my time here, we've migrated financial software from DOS to Windows, and then from Windows to SQL. So I think we feel pretty confident.
DOS.
I miss DOS.
I don't miss DOS. All right, is there a motion?
I move to award the financial software services proposal to Cassell for a proposal price of $47,288 and a monthly maintenance and hosting fee of $3,674 after implementation.
I will second.
Kaylin. And I will take Mike's second.
Thank you.
Any final deliberation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you very much.
11.2, discussion and possible approval of consultant services task order for the Mill Creek Drive Water Improvements Project. Chuck? I just want to say that we've been briefed about this. We knew that this was coming. Thank you for the stuff that's in our packet. Thank you for being here to answer questions. I'll entertain questions or a motion.
Move to.
I do have one quick question. Is this going to be pretty seamless with the projects that are going on in the Heckler neighborhood and Arbor Drive?
Oh, good question.
Sorry. Is this going to work pretty seamlessly with the projects that are slated for the Heckler neighborhood and Arbor Drive through county?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
In fact, yeah, GWISA has a water line in Mill Creek Drive as well, and we've already contacted them, let them know that we were doing this work, and they're not anticipating changing their line out, but when we get funding for construction of this, this is an analysis and design contract today. If there were improvements that GWISA wanted to do, we would coordinate with them to try and minimize tearing up the road. Yeah.
Okay, I just wondered about that.
So the earliest anybody might see work on the street would be half a year to a year? Or?
Yeah, this is a 6-month design contract, and we don't have funding scheduled for construction yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're turning dirt in less than a year.
Thank
We
you.
do have the funding topic ahead of us in September.
Put the fun back in funding.
I hope so.
I move to approve the consultant services task order for the Mill Creek Drive Water Improvements Project in the amount of $139,500.
I think I'll second.
Thank you, Kaylin. Thank you, Tani. Any
Big
final
heart.
deliberation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Chuck. 11.3, update Moab Municipal Code, Section 10.4.230, 8.b and 8c, idling, briefing and possible action. Thanks, Rosemary, for coming up for this and the next item. But I figured I would start off by saying this was, pushed to get this on our agenda, if for nothing else than to have a document that we could begin revising, because I was just receiving enough comment about our idling ordinance that 4 hours was just too long. So what we have in our packet is not in a place to pass tonight. However, we've been working today on amendments to that idling ordinance. Based on the amendments and the time for all of you to review it, it would not be a bad idea, and it would be my recommendation to give it a couple weeks of review. So I would entertain discussion, but also if we wanted to table this to just give us more time to look over it, that there's no problem there because there's no urgency. If we do want to table it, because it's really not in a position to pass tonight, I would say that we would just need to, I think it would be important for us to either settle on the 20-minute limit or the 2-minute limit. And the 20-minute limit could be 20 minutes, period, without many exceptions, or 2 minutes with exceptions, with a list of exceptions for special vehicles. So based on that direction from us, we could just kind of move forward with any kind of final amendments, edits to this ordinance.
And I would just add, besides the special vehicles, it was extreme weather was another exemption.
Yeah, extreme weather.
So weather was an exemption?
Yeah.
90 degrees to
Zero.
what, 0.
And I know some people thought 2 minutes was short, but the well standard, the international standard, is 30 seconds.
Well, I think, frankly, I think it's, if I may.
You may.
So I saw the list of exemptions, which is great, and I appreciate the sentiment and all. I mean, I don't like cars idling. I'm always going, why is this, leave this thing running kind of thing. But nonetheless, I felt like the ordinance was kind of austere. I mean, kind of, I can't use the language here that I'd like to use, but yeah, for example, people in a drive-through line in a burger chain, for example, they can't even get through in 2 minutes. I mean, what are you going to do? Have them turn their car off while they're in line?
And that's the policy question, and the answer is yes. In Salt Lake, in the area where they've passed this, there are signs in the drive-thrus that says, "Please turn your car off while waiting." So, I mean, that is the question that's before you. How do you want to proceed?
And we have such a educated suggester here sitting in front of us. So, Doctor, thoughts on the
Well, one
recommendations?
suggestion Joel had this morning, which was a great suggestion, is we have signs at either end in town where a lot of the problems are. This is an idle-free city.
So as you come in on 191 off the bridge, and as you coming out of San Juan County, there we just have signs that say entering an idle-free zone or an idle-free city, so people know that we don't have the full rule breakdown, but just so they know that they're expected to not idle while they're in town. So
I think certainly for
I don't know.
visitors who travel and come from other places, people are more and more used to seeing these standards, and I like the idea of supporting the 2 minutes, and just from the whole notion of the Utah League of Cities and Towns and supporting other communities who are stepping up. I like the idea of supporting Logan and Salt Lake by having a similar standard. So thank you both for working on this, because I think it's good to reduce it, and it will take some education and signage for sure, but don't forget to go look at
You can park your car and walk into a fast food place.
Yeah.
Not idle your car.
It's true.
If you're trying to get a straw poll,
Yes.
I thought the 20 minutes was a typo, so I'm definitely for the 2 minutes.
Is anyone for the 20?
Not. The only thing I will say, Rosemary, is that I do appreciate the exceptions that you put in there. I think emergency vehicles and vehicles that are working on construction projects or have to run the vehicle to run other equipment, like a jack or a hoist or whatever.
Or the animal van. Animal
Yeah,
control.
I appreciated all those, and I think that those are worth considering.
Yeah, broader level, it made it rational.
Yeah, and sometimes when you got a big truck, a semi or a big dump truck, it has to run for a few minutes, and then especially in bad weather, even if your crew is scraping it, that there's still ice and snow on the equipment or on the vehicle that poses a safety hazard. So it sounded like there were exceptions for things like that, though.
You just remind me of a great project. So in Fort Collins, we had a project where we gave out windshield covers, and they were for snow, but we used them in the summer too, and it was like idle-free. And so people didn't have to scrape. They didn't go in and warm up their car, because a lot of the trucks would be warming up their car or de-icing. And so, yeah, it was a great campaign.
Maybe we could find a vendor to sell them at cost. It's a
Yeah, I
good
still
idea.
have that information. And I actually saw a great sign too, because I like funny signs, but one was idling gets you nowhere. It was all over Canada. They were really cute.
I made an assumption that we all didn't have the opportunity to review the revised ordinance, but maybe we did.
I had the opportunity to review it, but I have issues.
Okay, so you still want to,
I'd like to have another 2 weeks.
okay. But we're all comfortable with the 2 minutes with exceptions?
No, we're not, oh, for discussion, yeah.
Except for you. You want the 20 minutes.
I would settle for 10, but 2 is, I don't know. I feel like we're accomplishing the vast majority of pollution concerns that we're concerned with at 10 or 20 minutes. And without, I just can't imagine, Ronnie, for example, has complained about other ordinances that we write that we don't enforce. And I just can't imagine a policeman trying to go around and saying, ma'am, you've 2 minutes and 10 seconds. I can't believe you've done that. And issuing a ticket. It's just a little absurd, frankly.
I did ask Brett what the history was about citations, and he said, we have talked to truck drivers, we've never issued a citation.
So why are we passing the ordinance?
It gives you the authority to go tell them to turn it off.
Otherwise you can idle as long as you want. So it's soft, soft. If you're caught speeding, Mike, and you get pulled over, are you grateful when the officer says, I'm gonna leave you with a warning? You're like, phew, thanks for not giving me a ticket. I'm gonna slow down. Same thing.
I don't know. I just still think 2 minutes is a little.
You get it, though?
I get it. Oh,
warning.
absolutely.
There's
I
a
agree
law.
entirely. I agree entirely.
Don't break it. If you do.
I've never sped it, so I wouldn't know.
Well,
I don't
if it makes you
believe you.
feel better, Mike, there's a lot of science behind this to back up the reasons. The 2-minute argument has been made.
We're gonna flood you with science.
There is a lot of science.
Flood
And
him with
even-
science.
Even the big trucks that used to have to idle for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, I asked our shop foreman and our assistant road supervisor, what's a reasonable time for a big truck to have to idle in the morning? 5 to 6 minutes, and that's if it's extreme weather, but.
There you go.
We've got good
How
air
about
quality.
10
Let's
I
keep it that
suggest-
way.
How about 10 minutes for
Actually,
10-minute
we-
compromise?
According to this afternoon, we actually don't, and that's another point. We don't even have a monitoring system.
Yeah.
This is all part of the air quality control. Utah, it's a big issue statewide, and
It is.
we are lucky that we have blue skies, but actually, when you're downtown, you're choking diesel dust. So I am fully in support of 20 seconds.
20 seconds. That is the wrong decimal. I think it's 2 minutes. Okay, well, that seems like pretty clear direction. Is there a motion?
Move to table consideration of ordinance 2019-17.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Is there a second? In
Second.
2 weeks. Did you hear that? Sorry, for 2 weeks. Thank you, Karen, for the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And 11-4, update municipal code, chapter 8.04, solid waste, briefing and possible action. I'm not going to read all of that, but there are 4 options in front of us. Rosemary, take it away.
Okay, so basically the first option is just codifying what you already voted on back in February. We didn't change the code to say that the franchise agreement included recycling. It only included trash. So that is one part of option 1. And the other part of option 1 is adding definitions or clarifying some of the definitions in the code. Because the way the code read before was that things that I would not consider trash were labeled trash. So things that were compostable, things that are recyclable, and so my recommendation is to separate those out so people realize that's a commodity, it's a resource, and it's not all considered trash.
Is it possible, Rosemary, to add in there a definition of clean cardboard? I couldn't find one. Is it not
We could.
feasible, or?
Yeah, I think we could, because I think people are confused. The pizza box always comes up, and basically the rule of thumb is you rip
Or the
off the
top.
top and not put in the bottom. And so.
Unless it's clean,
Unless it's clean.
because you get a pizza that
That's
doesn't
oil.
have a lot of oil.
Well, and there's other things that come in a cardboard box that can contaminate the box. Motor oil is what I think of, and things like
Okay.
that. So you don't want that in your recyclable.
Yeah, I think cardboard in general, we need to do more education about, because one of the challenges we have are people are not breaking down cardboard, and that's why you see some of these bins overflowing. So I think a campaign about what is clean cardboard and break it down for the town, or some kind of campaign that, and different kind of containers, like the mailbox containers, so people put cardboard in there. I think that would help our diversion. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So can I just ask, so we're not including recyclable materials as part of solid waste? I mean, these are all separate definitions for different products, is that correct?
Right, we had special waste, and then we just had this general category called trash. And so recyclables were in that category, compostables were in that category, organic waste was in that category. So I'm just saying, let's separate these things out, because they're different waste streams. And some are very valuable, and we want to get people to not be thinking, oh yeah, this is all trash. This has no value. So that's the intent of separating out. And then Kaylin had some great ideas about just tweaking the composting one a little more to specify it's organic and compost is the end product. And so I made those changes this afternoon.
Did you forward us the revised version?
I uploaded it, yeah. So it was during your meeting. It was probably about 5 or 6, so.
Oh.
It's up there now on the show drive. And so that's option 1. Option 2 is mandatory commercial recycling. That is something we discussed, and at the time we were trying to get the residential system underway, and so we had tabled that. I am not recommending that we do mandatory commercial recycling. My preference would be to have businesses opt in and continue to work with the businesses. The businesses are very interested in recycling. Dan's numbers are up to 1,000 customers between the city and the county. And so Brad at his height was at 350. So we're doing really well, and we're gonna have 2 hotels that wanna be the model recycling hotels, that want to say, okay, this is how you do it at a hotel. And so Moab Spring Ranch has already volunteered. And so we want to like work with one hotel and say, okay, this is best management practices, and see what it was like the public containers. You learn things as you go. And so rather than making it mandatory, I think working with the businesses is a better option. The third one, option 3, mandatory construction debris for buildings over 5,000 square feet. I gave that a little more thought, and one of the options we could do is just require those developers or those builders to give us receipts showing maybe 50% of their material has been recycled. And so,
how would that be shown by a receipt?
So you have a receipt that said, I dropped off my concrete at LeGrand, or I dropped off my metal at, Monument, or I dropped off my cardboard at the recycling center. And so as part of the permit process.
You can get a receipt for dropping off at the recycling center? They issue receipts?
They can.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they take it off.
Yeah, I think they would.
And the reason I think the construction debris is so important is, this afternoon after our session, I went upstairs and I was pulling reports, sustainability reports. And every year we had between like 20 and 25 projects. And, 4 years in a row, the top 2 for financial and environmental benefits were metal recycling and concrete recycling.
And LeGrand's ready to receive.
Yeah, so I talked to them back in November when we were thinking about this and said, do you have the capacity to do this? And and they were willing to do that. And I mean, it might even help us in terms of, we use it as street base. We used to recycle our porcelain toilets, the asphalt. We had our own crusher,
and, you know, we made $500,000 on having our own crusher. I mean, I think that'd be a great
being
idea.
Fort Collins?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So what if, because it seems like we're looking for a threshold, so projects above 5,000 square feet or construction debris recycling for particular items. Maybe we start with an item list instead of a size of construction project, because toilets are for all sizes. And concrete can be hauled.
Well, we did get an email late this afternoon from the director of solid waste, indicating that some of these would impact his facility. And I'm not opposed to tabling this one for a couple of weeks just to get input from him and see where we can cooperate and what he can handle and what we need to.
Yeah,
how we need
the
to
memo from
facilitate.
Evan is what made me think, okay, maybe if we went down to 50% and there's, because basically the memo was saying, you know, they might not have the infrastructure to take all this waste right now or take all these commodities right now. So that would give them time to ramp up on some things, but there's other options too.
Well, I think we need time to just collaborate more. I mean, it's not like in 2 weeks the district can receive more commodities. I mean, we're triaging equipment at the landfills, and I mean, this is, you know, we're making great progress in terms of improving our solid waste and recycling handling, but this is a long process.
Well, that's why I was asking, like, is LeGrand, is it like ready to land at LeGrand? Like, what items can currently be recycled?
Concrete and asphalt. So they wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't be taking metal, they wouldn't be taking wood. I just love the idea that we have something like a reuse or a Habitat for Humanity. And I mean, it would be, you know, you go by a lot of these hotels and you just see all the waste out there. Not wood,
Yeah.
sorry.
It's
All the
just
wood and
room to
materials.
store
Yeah.
and staff to sell. And storage that is covered and protected, especially for things like interior building materials. And so if the solid waste district could come up with a Quonset hut or something where that could be a reality, then that could be a moneymaker. I mean, not like bringing in the big bucks, but certainly diverting from the landfill and creating a place to do that type of work. Wabi Sabi did it under Jeff. The store's consolidated. They just don't have the capacity to do it anymore. Lots of different people have been talking about doing it for a really long time. Maybe this is the time for the solid waste district to step up and consider it. But for the issue that's before us, it just seems like instead of project size, maybe we can just do by item. And I mean, if we're adding items at a meeting, if we know it's an item that can be taken, then that's something that we could pretty easily do at a council meeting.
But if you say an item, so I have a toilet at my house and I'm getting rid of it, does that mean we're saying residents?
It means if we've got a vendor that's able and willing to receive construction debris by item type, then we would say there's a place that it goes instead of the landfill, and we're going to require you to put it there. Yeah. So you're either going to truck it there, or you can work with Monument Waste to get it there, or you pay a hauling service to get it there. And that's that, which I think is great.
So Emily, the facility that you just described, isn't that what we originally had in mind before this would proceed the way it's written here? But then, Rosemary, you suggested an alternative, then, if I thought I heard you correctly, which basically bypasses a mixed-use facility. In other words, wherever you got your materials that you wish to recycle from, it'd be up to you to take them directly to Monument or to LeGrand and come back with a receipt, which avoids the middleman, so to speak.
Well, at this point, it would, like, what I'm suggesting is you don't even need a receipt. Like, you can't throw a toilet away in the trash anymore. You got to send it to the zone. but that might be,
I'm not sure how that works because the construction debris goes to a landfill that is located in the county, operated by an independent special service district. So
here's what would happen. You got your big trailer, you go up there, you start dumping it, and they go, whoa, you can't put the toilet here.
but it's a city ordinance.
Oh, I see. How does,
It may require some kind of an intergovernmental agreement with the solid waste district.
oh, it got
We
complicated.
can't enforce our ordinances outside city limits, but we can contract with and other governmental entities to share functions and establish rules.
But it did just get complicated. Thanks for illustrating the complication.
Rosemary, can you remind me, I think one of the reasons one is concerned about asphalt and concrete is it's a relatively high carbon impact, right?
Yeah. I mean, to use virgin concrete especially, you know, it's really high temperatures. And so whenever you recycle it, it really reduces your greenhouse footprint.
And a lot of the road work that we do in the county, and I'm guessing in the city, I'm not 100% sure, they recycle the asphalt while they're doing it.
Yeah, in place, that's a great
And they do.
Do you know?
And that is the coolest machine to watch.
Does LeGrand only take larger volumes or small ones too? Like if somebody's just, you know, knocking out a piece of concrete, could they just haul it down there? You know, if they're re-pouring a square or something in their patio. I'm only wondering because, I mean, it's a great thing. I don't know if a lot of residents knew that they could maybe take things there, but I don't know if LeGrand wants volumes that are that small.
I don't know. They didn't specify. You know, I told them what we were thinking about. They didn't specify a high or low end.
I've heard more recent contradictory information, but so I'd like written confirmation from LeGrand before we pass an ordinance that's dependent on this very limited
Well, I guess being
potentials.
at the solid waste district too, maybe you can come back with information as to, like, are they still wanting this for the yard and construction debris landfill for cover at all? Or that was more, you know, they wanted the glass for that?
The
Do they
glass
use
is
any
being,
of that for cover?
the glass is being recycled, no.
Okay, but I mean, at the time, well, anyway, sorry, that was going on, but I know there has been a history of a problem with cover, you know, not enough cover materials. I just had no idea if they were using things like asphalt and concrete for cover. Like,
No, they're
doesn't seem
not.
like it would make good cover, but.
Mayor.
Karen's raising her hand.
Well, Evan is present, and I mean, is it worth asking these questions to him since he's sitting here or no?
Well, that's up to all, if you have
I'm
questions
just-
for him.
I'm curious.
It seems like we're not going to be passing something tonight, so it might be even better to just get with him. Yeah, so, I mean, we can bring him up. It's 9:30. It's up to you. I would, you know, not stop you from doing it. I do want to thank Evan for drafting the letter for us, because it gave us a good amount of information for consideration. When I think of construction debris, I don't just think of concrete, though. Like dumpsters full of wood.
Oh, yeah, nails.
So much wood. Yeah, bad wood, warped wood, wood with nails.
Metal frames.
Yeah.
Even cardboard. I mean, you go past some of these hotels and like, you know, 200 cardboard boxes from the toilets and
Wires,
sinks.
like, you know,
Oh, yeah.
extra cuts. Yeah. So there's, and I think that what might be like an underlying excitement is that this council wants to do what we can to keep that stuff out of the landfill as much as possible and get it into a recycled stream. So if that's the goal, then let's see what we can do in the interim. And I will say too, that back when it was like Jeff Cohen and Wabi Sabi, he and I and Colin Topper, of all people, what the Three Musketeers we were, went over to Grand Junction for something. And Denver, and we went to Restores, and we were like, what if we got a semi-truck and brought some of this Restore stuff to Moab to really get this, you know, rebuilding, resupply thing going and sort of stock, and then also Jeff was hearing and dealing with like Aspen and Telluride and places where there were big remodels where there was like tons of cabinets, like high-end cabinets that could be great for, you know, families doing remodels here in Moab. And so looking at that as a source too, it got too complicated, so we didn't do anything, but he was running Wabi Sabi, and there was definitely a lot of movement of, you know, people putting doors in and people taking doors out. There was like an adornment party where artists painted doors. There's room for that in our community, for sure. And I do think that it would make some money, so it's definitely worth consideration for the solid waste district to.
Can we circle back to option one, which is sort of like the baseline that we're talking about here, just to bring the code in compliance with the
Whether or not we want to do
franchise
it.
agreement? And this was a question that was raised earlier. I asked David Everett about it when the franchise agreement was in discussion. And that is, does the franchise agreement prohibit more than additional haulers of recycling in Moab, or does it allow for them?
Not for profit, right? So like if someone else is trying to do it for a profit, the franchise agreement would give the sole contractor the right to have access to your market. So.
Okay, so even though the definitions are maybe not as clear as they're intended to be regarding the differentiation between trash and solid waste and recyclables.
If you asked Waste Management when they entered the agreement if that's what they thought their basis of their bargain was, I would think that they would absolutely say, yes, we thought we were getting the sole right to.
You mean Monument?
Oh, excuse me, what did I say, Waste Management?
Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize. Monument Waste.
The other giant multinational waste
Yeah,
hauler.
they're both from New Jersey.
Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they would definitely say we thought we were getting the sole access to your market. That's why we bid what we bid. That's the numbers you got based off that.
Okay.
So my question here is, with this definition tightening, because in my mind, there are two different services. I mean, there's a single stream and then there's source separated. So, I mean, if somebody is going to do source separated recycling in 2 years, are we prohibiting that from happening by changing the definition right now?
Well,
I'm not sure I can answer that without having the franchise agreement in front of me and looking at that.
To see if you can differentiate the two.
My recollection was that when we granted the contract, we explicitly included recycling services within the scope of services that the vendor was providing.
Right. And the code doesn't make a distinction between how it's collected. The code really spells out the commodity. And the code right now says you can't collect if it's not your property, if you're not the property owner. So like I cannot go and collect your recycling or your trash if I don't own that property.
For a profit.
Good luck.
Yeah, you're drawing fine lines. I mean, source versus unsorted. You're walking fine lines, so.
That's what happens, though. People walk fine lines.
Absolutely.
But I'm just trying to be clear.
No.
Just because the
Clear
question,
as mud.
I mean, this is a conversation that I had with Evan recently, and it's been raised. So I think it's important that that there's clarity about it.
I would, to a degree, say you're asking for legal advice. And it's probably something we don't want to do.
Yeah, I'd be happy to review the contract and give you my thoughts on that. I'd rather not have to do that.
And then
in a
if
public
you
setting.
take that legal advice and come in here and make the decision you guys feel is appropriate based off the information you get from staff and from council. But it's not a conversation, I don't want to have a legal discussion in an open meeting necessarily.
Oh, come on.
Rosemary, one easy question. Back to option 2 for a moment. I thought I heard you say that you don't support mandatory commercial recycling, but the wording in here seems to say that.
Well, staff was asked to bring back options during that meeting in, not the February meeting, the November meeting. You know, we tabled a few options, and it was like, okay, let's try out the residential recycling, see how that goes, and then let's revisit these other options. So I'm just bringing back these other options that we had discussed. Even the fourth option about mandatory recycling, I don't, mandatory cardboard, I don't recommend that as either. My only recommendation is option 1 of codifying.
Okay, well, is there a motion?
I moved to table for 2 weeks so that we have time to review the new draft.
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Kaylin, you are up. Number 12, approval of bills against the city of Moab. Thank you, Rosemary.
Yeah. I move to approve the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $306,000, 381, wait.
What's going on, Ken?
What is going on?
What is going on?
Move to approve the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $306,381.77.
Thank you, Kaylin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ronnie.
I feel your pain. It was hard for me too.
Any comments?
No comments.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Karen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kaylin. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Good meeting, everyone. Thank you, Summer, for running our streaming system.